The flagship Brexit trade deal with the Pacific has no major economic gains for the UK, according to the top trade expert. Let's read more into this with the Independent guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from the Independent. The headline is Flagship Brexit trade deal with the Pacific has no major economic gains for the UK. The top trade expert says conditions for hidden benefits claimed by Kemi Badenoch are highly unlikely. Yeah, I mean, if you take away actually the analysis and that, and take away the rhetoric, and when you hear about the CPTPP and all the countries that are involved in it, it does sound on the surface like a really good deal. If you don't look at the details of it, and there are people who will read right-wing media, right-wing papers and media and look at it and think, wow, this is a great deal. We're going to be working with all these other nations outside the EU, because that's the picture that's being painted here. But, and this is the big but, when you actually look into the detail, you'll see it's worth almost little to nothing, really. Because that's what it really is. I'm sure most of you kind of know that from most of you who watch, but there's always those people who don't listen and read into it and don't realise that as great as the deal sounds, it really isn't. The government's new flagship Brexit trade deal with the Pacific countries will not lead to substantial economic gains for the UK, top trade expert has said. The Business Secretary Kemi Badenoch last week signed Britain up to the CPTPP, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and claimed it would provide a big boost for the economy, possibly only outside the EU. She claimed officials' estimate from her own department of just a tiny 0.08% of GDP gain over 10 years were too small and did not take into account potential hidden benefits from joining. Excuse me. 0.08%. That's tiny, 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 tiny. That's the thing. And in stark contrast to the EU, it's ridiculous. And you would think that to get, as I said, you would think a deal with all these nations, because that's supposed to be what it's supposed to be painting this picture, that percentage would be much higher, and it's not. It's not even 1%. Like that's the sad. And this is 0.8% in over 10 years. Brexit benefit, right? But academics at the respected UK Trade Policy Observatory who have examined the agreement say the conditions for such a hidden further boost appear to be highly unlikely. The Sussex University Academy also note that the deal's small benefit of 0.08% appears to fall somewhat short of compensation for the predicted 4% GDP loss of leaving the EU. 4%. Good deal. The CPTPP is a free trade agreement between Australia, Burundi, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore and Vietnam, and was established in 2018 to cut trading barriers between the countries involved. But the agreement's benefits to Britain are small, the researchers say, because the UK has already bilateral free trade agreements with all but two of its members, Burundi and Malaysia. Well, that kind of makes this deal non and void then, if almost non and void, if we've already got trade deals with all these nations apart from two, doesn't it? The government hopes that the trading area will expand further to cover more countries such as China. China's entry into the bloc could be a game changer, the researcher says, but it's also very unlikely. China applied to join the CPTPP in 2021, but has since then intensified China's US hemorrhage rivalry, China's expansionism into the South China Sea and the Chinese-Taiwan conflict, as well as differences on standards, mean it is unlikely that China will join the CPTPP for the foreseeable future, the researchers conclude. His application to join has, however, also complicated matters, casting a geopolitical cloud over proceedings that could potentially disrupt the ascension of other countries to the CPTPP, such as Taiwan. Accession to the CPTPP. Are you guys enjoying me messing it up? Will not lead to substantial economic gains for the UK. The authors, Dr. Mikhail Morjagiwa. If I mispronounce these names, guys, I do apologise in advance. Dr. Maro Tony Kechkov, Nico Tabaringi, and Guadamango Labagiska Wright. Any such gains will largely depend on possible future expansions of the CPTPP. Primarily, should China ever ascend, and to a lesser extent Taiwan, Thailand, and Uruguay, who have also applied to join. China's ascension into the CPTPP seems highly unlikely, they conclude, noting that the country's application may have a knock-on effect to other ascensions, especially Taiwan, and that China's application to the CPTPP has made the club more difficult to expand. So there's Thailand, Uruguay, like I mean, it does. I mean, again, it sounds like a really good deal with all these nations, but again, considering we've already dealt with most of them, and it just sounds really good, and it's just not. That's the thing that's very frustrating. And you would think that something like this would work together, but clearly, from what I've read on the CPTPP, that there's always been disagreements. And they've not really, and it's not really a fair system. It's not like the EU. It's not. My understanding from what people tell me is that there's also a secret like jury that kind of decides on things that we have no say on as well. Allegedly. The draft paper shared with The Independent also notes that it's not clear whether the UK would even want China in the blog for political and strategic reasons. In March this year, the former Prime Minister Liz Truss, who has positioned herself as a hawk on China, said it was essential that the UK rejects any proposal for China to join the blog. Well, her opinion is valuable as a lettuce, that's for sure. Without new countries joining the blog, largely replicates existing agreements that the UK has a bilateral basis. I have to say that about Liz Truss because, I let us last longer than she did as Prime Minister. That tells you everything you need to know about her. An analysis by the researchers note that the vast majority of the existing agreements Britain has with the CPTPP existing members are copies or are closely based on agreements the UK enjoyed because of its EU membership. So I wonder what those deals are going to be when they are up for renewal. Now that we're not part of the EU, what are we going to offer them differently? Because that's the thing. These membership deals, they're probably going to be different now, aren't they? Just having the thought there. But crucially, the agreements already has with some countries in the CPTPP, and in some cases better than the terms on which it could trade with them as part of the CPTPP. For some products, CPTPP terms are more restricted than the UK's, and for those countries through recently signed bilateral agreements, they say. Product specifics analysis is required to understand which products could benefit from the CPTPP rules of origin arrangements. The analysis is a blow to the UK government, which has been trumpeting CPTPP, I'm going to keep getting it wrong, as its main objective in trade ever since the US government called on a trade deal. Such free trade agreements were said by Brexiteers to be a good justification for leaving the EU single market and customs union, allowing Britain to strike deal independently of Brussels. Liberal Democrats Foreign Affairs spokesman Leila Morris said the latest research was clear that the CPTPP will not come anywhere near to making up for the damage the Conservatives have done to our economy. She criticised the government botched deal with Europe and their broken manifesto pledge for a trade deal with the US. Instead, there are serious concerns about it undermining the UK's high standard for food quality, the environment and animal welfare. No wonder Conservative ministers didn't let anyone scrutinise the deal properly before they signed it, she said. We didn't even have a vote on it, remember? Just remember that. We, the public, who voted to leave the European Union, did not have a say on whether to join the CPTPP. That's not democratic, is it? This out-of-touch Conservative government has repeatedly let down British businesses and the public with their broken promises and botched trade deals. Liberal Democrats are clear that to grow the UK economy, we must get the Conservatives out and fix this broken relationship with Europe. I'm about to sneeze in a moment. The Department for Business and Trade spokesman said this is a great deal for the UK economy, delivering billions of pounds worth of trade deal each year. And every nation and region will benefit. Somehow I've not sneezed. The CPTPP will now have a combined GDP of 12 trillion and account for 15% of the global GDP. The CPTPP business employed 1 in every 100 UK workers in 2019, so joining the group will support jobs, increase wages and create opportunities across the country. As I said, it's not a big deal. It's not going to make that much of a difference, if I'm honest. I mean, it all sounds good on paper, guys. It really, you know, the name and the nations and all that kind of stuff. But when we've already got trade deals with them, and given our situation already, cost of living, healthcare, and all that kind of going on in our UK, etc., which we're already aware of, this is not really. It's a tiny positive. Personally, I know it's not possible, but if Britain could take this membership by the scruff of its neck and change it for the better, then it could potentially work. There is a potential for the CPTPP to actually be a really successful trade blog, but I don't think, considering where Britain stands right now, I don't see that, given its situation, and it would have to make significant changes, and because it'd be a new member, is it really going to have much sway in there as well? No, probably not. But what do you guys think? What do you think of this deal? Is it going to really make a difference? Are all the other nations involved just going to benefit off it, and we're not? Will this expand? Will this expand further? What do you guys think about China potentially joining it sometime in the future? Obviously, it's looking unlikely, but we never know. Let me know down in the comments below, guys. Like, share and subscribe. Thanks as always for watching, and I will catch you all very, very soon.